Yo guys, Vision here bringing you some more Marvel Rivals content. Today's video I'll be bringing you the full Blade guide following the latest Season 3.5 update, breaking down all of his abilities, including his team-up ability and addressing both his strengths and weaknesses. This is episode 27 of my Hero Series guides with all of the previous episodes on the channel and linked in the description below. So, on that note, let's get right into it. So first things first, just as a general overview of the character, Blade is a duelist in this game, a DPS with high health, unique abilities that steal life from enemies, prevent healing from enemies, and has great sustain. He is a melee character similar to the likes of Magic, with Dracula's sword used to strike down enemies, whilst utilising his mobility to dive and dash, dealing crazy AoE, and also, of course, a shotgun for that ranged aspect. Now, his base health of the character is 350, which is a pretty strong sort of duelist in itself, just like Wolverine, and also has a movement speed of 6 meters per second, which is pretty average for most of the characters in the game, but he does have a nice dash ability to improve his overall movement, which I'll go over shortly, so that technically makes him a faster character overall when you think of it all in all. But like I said, I'll go over his abilities now. So as for his abilities, he has two primary attacks, known as the Ancestral Sword, which slashes forward, dealing 22 damage per single slash. The Double Strike causes 13 damage per hit, and has a two attacks per second attack speed with a 4.5 meter range. So the damage is pretty average. I wouldn't say it's crazy at this point, but it's when you start getting into the deeps or the depths of his abilities is where he starts inflicting more damage and the special effects of all of his abilities. He also has his Hunter's Shotgun, his iconic weapon, which provides him that range aspect, dealing an initial 45 damage per hit, but it also has a 12 count of shrapnel, which deals an additional 8 damage per hit as well, so 96 full damage for all 12 of those sort of shrapnels that will hit an enemy, which is more likely to do on a larger target such as a Vanguard. And the fall off begins on this ability at 20 meters, decreasing to 40% at 30 meters and beyond, with a projectile speed of 150 meters per second. I won't lie, using this in the gameplay, you will see I find it hard to use the shotgun. I maybe need to adjust my crosshairs and change the settings slightly, because when on a moving target going left to right, the crosshair where you're looking isn't exactly where the shot hits, and technically you want to sort of like lead your shots. It's not a hit scan character, of course, so anytime you use the shotgun, if you're seeing a target go left or right, you want to basically use your crosshairs and slide across the screen. Otherwise, you're not really going to effectively hit the enemy as consistently as you should, and therefore not doing as much damage. And like I said, you'll probably see it in this gameplay where I'm trying to use the shotgun just to try an entry with range attacks and just trying to learn how best to combine it with the sword. For the most part, I have gathered that you basically just want to use the sword at all times at close quarters and only use the shotgun at range, and it does do a crazy amount of damage at range in itself. Now, as for his L1 ability, this is the Daywalker Dash. This is basically where it allows Blade to dash forward up to 15 meters. Now, depending on which weapon you're wielding, when using this ability in itself, changes the purpose of the ability or the outcome at the end of it, which also impacts the damage and the special effects and so on. Now, when wielding the gun, when you use this ability, you will basically shoot enemies upon impact and applies a healing reduction effect to that enemy. And also, if you're wielding your sword, you will inflict slow on those enemies and delivers a clearing strike. This ability does deal 20 damage initially and has a healing reduction of 40%, which lasts for 3.5 seconds. And the slow effect is a 35% slow, which only lasts for 1 second. Now, the second hit with the gun after the dash deals an additional 20 damage, and the sword's second hit damage deals 15 per hit, with 4 hits in total, so an additional 60 damage. As you can see, this dash is beneficial for using the sword and combining the two together. Now, the R1 ability, known as the Bloodline Awakening, this is where basically Blade's slash speed is enhanced, and combining continuous attack speeds which trigger a whirlwind attack, which basically under this state, Blade will experience reduced healing. However, his attacks will inflict lifesteal on enemies, and for single targets, this ability is going to be so crucial, especially in isolation when it's you in a 1v1 with another player. Now, adding to his overall sustain and isolation playstyle, this ability is going to be crucial. Now, as for the stats of this ability, the life steal is proportional to 60% of the enemy's health, providing a self-healing proportion of 40% for Blade, gaining a 1.5 meters per second increase in movement speed, whilst also dealing a 56 damage whirlwind attack. Now, to actually trigger this whirlwind attack, you basically need to understand Blade's buffs and stacks and how you basically utilize this in this bloodline form and how it all sort of works together. Now, think of it similar to maybe Wolverine's Rage meter or Emma's Psionic Seduction meter. Basically, the more hits you hit on enemies whilst in this form, the more buffs or stacks that you will generate, up to a total of 10. The stacks increase Blade's attack speed overall. Each slash that you get with your sword will basically stack 1 buff, and each dash that you sort of use during this ability will stack 5, providing an additional 10% speed boost on attack speed per buff stack, so basically up to 100% increase in attack speed when at 10 overall buffs. And basically each buff lasts for 0.7 seconds before it begins to drop down or fade, so basically this influences sort of the aggression or the sort of isolation playstyle in order to maximize your damage output and be most efficient as possible. In order to increase your whirlwind output and the most damage you're going to inflict, you basically want to continuously be hitting enemies, stealing life, benefiting yourself with obviously life steal and getting yourself an additional health bonus, and then also dealing more damage by attack speed and also dealing the whirlwind attack as well. So basically using this R1 ability and then slashing and dashing is basically the best thing you want to be doing. But of course, you need to realize that when you're getting in this form, you are going to receive less healing as well, because you have a reduced healing amount whilst in this R1 form, so just bear that in mind. Now, as for his L2 ability, this is known as the Scarlet Shroud. This is basically where you can parry with the Ancestral Sword to become unstoppable for a short period of time, reducing damage taken from the front, while simultaneously decreasing the Daywalker dash ability. So effectively, by blocking every once in a while, you're going to then reset your dash ability. So try to use the 2 dashes, then use the block, absorb as much damage as you can, and then use more dashes as possible. That is the best way, I would say, to sort of prevent damage being taken, whilst also inflicting more damage as well and having more abilities. So kit management and ability usage is going to be key for his sustain overall, as well as decreasing the cooldowns of the dash, results in more damage output, as well as lifesteal, damaging enemies, and regaining health over time. Now, as for the stats of this ability, it provides a 80% damage reduction and can be held for 2 seconds in use during duration, and as well, it costs 60 energy per second to cast this, whilst having a maximum energy of 120, so again, 2 seconds in duration total. The energy gain is 15 per second passive, which takes 12 seconds in total to get to maximum energy, and the ability has a 3-second cooldown in between uses, so if you don't use the full energy and you drop the sort of the block or the shield that you'll gain with this, you basically can use it 3 seconds later. Now, the key aspect here is the special effect of this ability. For every 200 damage that you resist or block, that is when you're going to get the 1 extra Daywalker charge or the dash that you'll get for yourself, so just bear that in mind. So if you're sort of fighting someone like a Punisher that you know is going to inflict a crazy amount of damage really quickly, block that, get your dashes back, and either use them to escape or use them to dash onto him when he has to reload or whatever it may be. But that's just like general advice I found so far. But just overall, the ultimate ability in itself is known as the 1000-fold slash, where it's basically Blade can use the Sword of Dracula, executing a powerful strike, dashing forward, leaving behind a slashing zone where the sword will automatically hit enemies in that zone, and basically any enemies hit will suffer from reduced healing. Again, as for the details of this ultimate, it costs 2,800 energy, so a very cheap ultimate in itself, but it does also slow Blade by 25% when used and lasts for 3 seconds in duration. It has a minimum dash distance of 10 meters with a maximum charge distance of 24 meters after fully charged. So when you hold down the ultimate for a couple of seconds, you will see that it extends the distance of how far you're going to dash, dealing a 100 direct damage dealt on the initial dash, or like the initial impact in itself, and then effectively after that point, you leave behind a zone, a spellfield damage zone of 225 damage per second for the duration of the ability, so 3 seconds in duration, so 775 total damage. And it also has a 6-meter width and a height of 4.5 meters, which also inflicts, as I said, a healing reduction of 20%, which lasts for 4 seconds. So again, the special effects of this character and these abilities are really crucial in understanding the lifesteal, the health reduction, and all of that aspects is really crucial if you're going to maximize your sort of usage and your efficiency when using Blade. Now, as for his team ability, Blade actually shares the New Moon team ability with Moon Knight and Cloak and Dagger, where he can create a light and dark realm bubble, effectively just like Moon Knight, allowing Blade to also go invisible and gain a healing over time. Whilst also in this bubble, Blade can actually leap towards enemies and execute a swift strike attack out of the blue and out of the shadows, where no one will basically see him, as like a camouflage, and then sort of surprise attack them with 60 damage dealt from this attack. But also with this, the healing over time gains 50 health per second whilst in this, and you can leap up to 20 meters away. So this is also going to be useful for that aspect as like a sneak attack. If you place it on the side, regain some health, and then go back straight into the action and then start combining all your abilities together. Like I said, kit management will be key. In summary, I believe Blade is going to be significant in influencing the dive meta with his high sustain, damage output via direct damage and area of effect, lifesteal ability, his health reduction abilities and all of the special effects, his insane ultimate ability, which should be very powerful on objective game modes and all of that such, and also just it being a new character in general, a highly anticipated character that everyone's excited to play. And I'm not gonna lie, I have had a great time playing him so far. I'm not really fond of the dive meta. I've always said about it in all of the previous videos, but this is definitely a character I'm going to give a try, and I'm going to be fair and reasonable as well. I hope you guys saw that I was playing Doom match as well a lot of this, because I don't want to be that typical Vanguard player who I am. I'm a Vanguard main who then goes into quick play and starts taking the Duelist. I'm not one of them players, guys, just so you guys are aware. So I have some respect for my Duelist mains out there who want to play this character as well. I did give him one go on quick play and I had a great time, but for obvious reasons it is very different with adapting to play styles when you're playing Doom match against all different type of players in solo, isolation, 1v1s and such, and then you go into a team system. Obviously quick play, you can get the perfect system where you get 2 tanks, 2 healers, and then you can play around how you wish. But if you're sometimes in a quick play where you have 1 healer or 1 Vanguard, then it's completely different. So for the most part, I don't really know how he's going to play it in comp yet, but I will see when I sort of get into the season. We'll see how it plays out. But anyways, guys, there you have it. That's the full guide for Blade. If you enjoyed the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, as it massively helps me out. And if you have any suggestions, tips or tricks so far about playing this character, or any cool clips that you may want to share that you've already obtained, or you've got him Lord or anything like surprising like that, let me know down below in the comments and I'll get right back to you. I'm Vision SGen. I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you in the next one.